Who actually pays for society? Most people want to blame the rich, and they say, tax the billionaires. They have so much money they can give it away and pay for everything. But who is actually paying for society, and who should you not try to be? I've been poor, and I am now wealthy. I tried to skip the middle class, and you'll see throughout this video why you might want to do the same thing. Where most people actually try and fight to be middle class, go to college, rack up the debt, get a good job, earn a good wage, climb the corporate ladder, become the middle class. But let's look at who's actually paying for society. The first one, the easiest one that people argue about the most, would be taxes. If somebody is poor, and I mean, most of my life, I never made more than $60,000 a year, and I was a single parent with 3 kids. So, was I poor? No. Top 1% worldwide, not so great in the United States. But really poor people, below the poverty threshold, less than $30,000 a year in income, often get more out of the system than they put in. Yeah, maybe they work a bunch of hours, but they don't have a high earning job. So you get earned income child tax credit, you get Section 8, you get low income housing, you get SNAP, you get BFET, you get subsidized child daycare. You get all of these options from the tax system. People are taxed to pay for these. So the poor aren't paying for society while they are doing a lot of the work. The middle class pays the bulk of taxes. In the last couple of years before I retired early in 2022, yeah, I started making decent money. I think the company I worked at realized I was making more money off my rentals than I was at work, 3 or 4 times as much. So they started paying me more. And then I realized I'm paying a lot in taxes from my W-2 job. So when my wages aligned with the middle class, so did my tax bill. In places like California, you could be paying 50+% of your income to the government. Work January to June before you start making money. No thanks. As a wealthy person who is lost in Chiang Mai and traveling and came here because the weather was better than in Phuket, going to be going to Phuket once the weather clears up and doing scuba diving for a couple of months, I pay 0 in taxes. $240,000 in profit last year, much more than I made from my W-2 job. 0 in taxes carried forward a loss. So if you look at the tax spectrum, the wealthy are encouraged to invest. Right? The investor, the property owner, the capital gains tax is less if you go to sell anything. But that earned income, the middle class trap, you're paying the most in taxes, percentage-wise, much more than a wealthy person is, and a poor person, because they're getting more out of the system than they put in. And then I'll draw this one from my time as a police officer, right? Before getting my last job, I was a cop for about 8 years. And one of the things I learned, and my friend who is still a police officer, in 8 years, outside of training, I wrote 1 speeding ticket. And it's because he was doing 56 in a school zone, told me he was in a hurry, and asked me to just write the ticket. Because in the departments I was at, and I was in 2 different ones, you were either allowed to lecture or write. And I'd rather lecture, and then have them leave thinking I was a jerk, but they didn't get a ticket. Main reason I didn't want to write tickets is because wealthy people don't pay for tickets. They pay an attorney to get them out of the ticket. Once I became wealthy and one of my daughters got 13 tickets in 1 year, all I did was pay an attorney, and she didn't pay for any of those tickets. The poor, as an officer, having been in court with the cell phone violation tickets that I did write, and the seatbelt tickets, and whatever else somebody got, if you didn't make a lot of money, the judges usually dismissed or minimized the fines. So the poor people aren't paying the tickets, the wealthy people are paying attorneys. The middle class, the ones who can't take time out of work to go to court to fight a ticket, well, they just pay it. So even tickets, that's the middle class paying for it. And then we look at housing. I talked about it a little bit earlier. The poor people have, they work to pay for things, but housing is sometimes subsidized with that Section 8, low-income housing, charities that work for it. As a wealthy person, I have not paid for housing since 2015. So that's like a decade. Got my first duplex in 2013. I paid like $300 a month for housing. But when I was a working class person, I paid a mortgage. I paid my rent. But as a wealthy person, I've bought small multifamily houses, lived in one unit, rented out the others. My last one I paid all cash for, rent out the other side of a duplex on the water, which I like to only be at during the summer because that's when it's nice to be in Washington, where there is no R. But in the winter, you can come to Chiang Mai where it's like 80 degrees at whatever time of day it is, because I know it's like 2 o'clock in the morning back home. But the middle class, what do you have? You have a mortgage. The goal is to keep up with the Joneses. You want the biggest mortgage, nicest, shiniest house. The poor are getting subsidized housing. The wealthy figure out a way for assets to pay for housing. The middle class, leveraged, got a big mortgage, and they sell their life 1 hour at a time to pay for their housing. Society is carried on the backs of the middle class. So I understand the complaint when people say, tax the billionaires. We're not going to change the system. What you need to do is learn how to work in the system. Then we get to credit cards and debt. As a poor person, I never used a credit card. My ex did, and I got stuck with the debt. Her plan filed bankruptcy. We were poor together. She filed bankruptcy. Most of the people I know that have negative 400 credit scores or below 400 credit scores rack up a bunch of debt, don't care about it. It's a big bag boogeyman. You're going to get the calls from the collectors and you just ignore them long enough. 7 years later, it drops off your credit report and it's just gone. Or you file bankruptcy and it goes away. Don't answer the creditors because that starts your zombie debt again. But a wealthy person, since I've been wealthy, I use credit cards all the time. For absolutely every expense that I have, I use a credit card for cash back. If you're smart like Chesla, she'll do it for points and upgrade to first class every time we travel somewhere, or upgrade or get a ticket to the next place. But I just like the cash back. Simple. Never carry a balance from 1 month to the next. The middle class, it's an average of $16,000 in credit card balance, carried for over 24 months, 2 years, the average carrying of that debt, and at an average of $16,000. Think of the interest rate that they're paying, right? There's two types of people when it comes to interest. If you either understand it or you pay it. So even the debt system, the middle class pay the debt because the poor can file bankruptcy. And yeah, there are some ethical poor people who end up paying their debts too. But as a wealthy person, I have a ton of debt, right? About $1.5 million worth of debt that I will never pay a penny of. My tenants will. My assets will pay off the debt. I don't want to pay it off early because of the Cantillon effect and inflation-based debt destruction. My debt is making me richer and making me more free. So I don't have to work and I can actually just travel and do whatever I want and spend some time out here with the mosquitoes, specifically at this time of day, lesson learned. And can't wait to get to Phuket from what I hear. No mosquitoes there, a little warmer. The squirrel ran off with the Emperor's Groove. With the credit cards, with the debt, $1.5 million in debt on my mortgages, the more debt I have that's good debt, the more free that I am, the less I will ever have to work. The middle class don't understand that. They see debt as a tool to lever your car, your house. Then let's talk about healthcare. If you are poor, you have state medical. You can qualify for, in Washington, it's Apple Health. You can, I just put that together. Washington's the Apple state. So if you are wealthy, you can have the best healthcare insurance. Who cares about the deductible? Your assets are going to pay for it, not you selling your life 1 hour at a time. But the middle class, the people who are trapped at work that let healthcare be the handcuffs, they're stuck at work thinking, I need healthcare, so I have to have a job. They don't get healthcare from their job. They get healthcare insurance. And insurance you usually get from your job has a high deductible. So who's paying the deductible? The person, the middle class working person. Who's paying the premiums? The employer, based on taking money away from your hourly wage and putting it into your healthcare insurance premiums. So even middle class covers the cost of insurance, whereas the wealthy has assets pay for it, and the poor has the middle class pay the taxes to cover their health insurance. Retirement. This is a good one. A lot of times, the really poor people get more out of the system than they put in, including Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. The wealthy can take Social Security whenever they want. I've not even factored it into my income. Without having to work, without having to show up at a rental in over 6 years now, I make around $21,000 a month in income. I spend usually around 4. Now, when I come to Thailand, it's a challenge to get that up to 4. My I must spend $2,000 a month going out to eat is very hard to do. An example is here if you are in Chiang Mai and you stay in Old City, there is a restaurant called Arlo? I forget. It was a steakhouse. And you can get the porterhouse. Great meal. This is not really where you come for steaks, but you know, once in a while you have one. Go for the Thai food, it's better here. But if you have that porterhouse, it was like $12 for a meal including drinks and everything. How do you get that up to $2,000 a month? I'm gonna try. Challenge accepted. The middle class fall into the tax trap. Somebody says, hey, unintelligent person, why don't you lock your money behind a paywall, make the government rich because they know taxes are going to be more in the future, make your employer rich because they use it as a recruiting and retention program to keep you around, and make the asset managers rich because they can make money whether your account gains in value or loses in value. Imagine that. 3 people getting rich off of retirement accounts and not you. Wealthy people don't care about retirement accounts. Who cares how much you can put into your Roth? Who cares how much you can put into your 401k when you have assets that pay you 4 or 5 times what you spend in a month? Versus the people who, a lot of times at retirement, the equity in their house and their money in their retirement accounts is the only money they have. No assets to their name. They've bought liabilities. Yes, people say your house is your biggest asset. No, it's a Schrodinger's asset or liability. You don't know if it's good or bad until you look at the numbers. If it's costing you to live there, no. If it's paying you to live there, no. I wonder what this cat's name is. No video is complete without cat butt. The cost of being responsible. Yeah. Oh, he meowed at me. Meow. You pay for insurance, you pay parking tickets, you pay interest, you pay full price for everything. Imagine the perks you get as a wealthy person. When you stay at a hotel and you look for the best price on Kayak or Agoda, which is the one to use in Southeast Asia and Portugal, but if you go to Travelocity and you get the best deal, you're not gonna get all the perks that come with it. You can get a nicer hotel that comes with free stuff. The meals are included, the $6 1-hour massages. The middle class are paying for everything because they don't make enough for the perks. My trick was to skip the middle class. I went from broke. I found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed until the divorce. I got a job teaching truck driving after getting laid off from law enforcement, making $17 an hour, right around 2010. So this is not like in the 90s or the 80s. Instead of becoming middle class and working to get higher wages, I took what money I could and invested in assets. Now for some that's stocks, for some that's crypto. For me, I understand people need a place to live. I understand how to fix things or hire people to fix things. I have more control. Pick an asset class that works for you. Put your money to work. Don't shoot for the wrong goal. The middle class pay for everything. Yes, sometimes being poor might be the answer because you can live off society. And that's why so many people vote that way. Have a week full of amazing. This is a nice short live for those people who would never click on a 2-hour video. I'm gonna go find some mosquito cream and I will see you Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, which I think is like 5 in the morning here. I'll be awake, ready to go to bed. That video will last as long as the questions do. Have a day full of amazing.